We have our pain and we have our trauma, and a lot of times we allow that to speak for us.
I had no idea that there were other people like me out there living their lives.
Ask your healthcare provider if Biktarvy is right for you, and visit Biktarvy.com to view the important facts, including important warnings.
Hello there, welcome to Plus Talk on Plus Life, where we're all about turning positive into a plus. And talking of positivity and being positive, our fitness guru, Raif Derrazi, is joining me today. Hey buddy, how are you?
I'm great, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. We're going to talk all things kind of social media today, because I think it's really important for those of us who have decided to live quite publicly and out there, especially on our social media platforms, about our HIV status. Sometimes that can come with some pretty negative feedback from people out there. And I thought it would be good to talk about how we deal with maybe some of the more like bullying aspects or negativity when what we're trying to do is promote positivity and talk about, change how people perceive HIV. Not just being our fantastic fitness guru, you do a lot of other great work online, whether it is fitness stuff for other brands, but I would consider you an influencer. You've got almost 26,000 followers on Instagram and across your various platforms. First of all, why did you decide to talk about your HIV status on social media?
Well, it was important to me because when I was diagnosed, that's the first place I went to look for people who looked like me, people who were relevant to my life and my experience, and I just wasn't seeing it. So I asked myself straight up, is this something that I'm willing to do? And the answer ultimately obviously was yes, because there's so much value in it. And the response that I got immediately was validated all of that. And I knew that, it meant a lot to a lot of people.
Yeah, I know for both of us, we are, I think, kind of taken aback almost on a daily basis about the amount of great positive feedback we get from what we put up, but also just the sheer personal, beautiful messages that we receive from people all around the world sliding into our DMs. But for every 100 fantastic comments, there's one negative that can really get to you. And I've had an experience recently on Twitter where I engaged in this, and for all best intentions of me trying to say, look, tell me your point of view, why don't you come and chat and we can talk about it, I was really kind of shot down. And I know you've had your share of haters. What are some of the things you do to not allow that to get into your head and affect you? Because I think it's good information for all of us out there.
A lot of times it comes down to not engaging, and just, it's always kind of going to happen in the background, but not paying attention, not giving any energy or focus to it is number one. Number two is to always bring it back down to logic and critical thinking. So many of these arguments that people are making, I wouldn't even call them arguments. They're using logical fallacies, rhetoric, generalizations, name calling, hyperbole. If you take all that away, if you slough all that off, get down to the core of what they're saying, a lot of times you can attack that and completely neutralize what it is they're saying and not take it personally.
Yeah, I know you say, don't engage, and I get given that very sage advice all the time too. But sometimes it's really hard not to, especially if you're in the space like we are as people who want to talk about you equals you, or the positive sides of being positive. And you can't help it. You go, but what you're saying is just so false and so wrong that you do engage. What would you suggest is a good approach? If you feel like, I just can't bite my tongue on this, I want to either fact check or stick up for my point of view, what do you suggest are some good ways to approach that without perhaps overly flaming the situation and turning it into a Twitter war or something?
Yeah, and when you said 1 in 100 really gets to you and stings, a lot of times that 1 in 100 that hurts is coming from within the community or people who you feel would otherwise support you. And those are the ones that I typically tend to engage with, because we want those of us around us on our side, so to speak, to be there supporting us and uplifting us. And so it's important that we're on the same page. And so, like I said, it just comes down to basics. Using rational level-headedness, not allowing emotion to kind of come into play, or ego. a lot of us, we have our pain and we have our trauma, and a lot of times we allow that to speak for us. And when we do that, it might not be the most constructive way of making an argument. So it's about being level-headed, objective, employing empathy, understanding that we all have our own individual wants, needs, and desires, and they're going to come into conflict because we are all uniquely different. So inherently, what it means to be in a democracy is to have discourse and debate with respect and to be able to compromise at the end of the day. Our democracy in the US would not exist without those things.
Yeah, and I think you use a great word there, being, well, several words: dignity, respect, and compromise. I say it all the time. We don't have to agree. Sometimes it's good that we don't, because maybe when you walk away from the table or the disagreement, you think, oh, hang on, I never actually, that person has a point that I didn't think of. Wow, and you have time to digest it. Maybe another good suggestion is, and I've got to learn this, is not to hit send or publish as soon as my string of thoughts has finished, right?
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes just taking a step away for a moment, letting things digest. And that's when you can really allow, we just talk about it in interpersonal relationships with our friends, our loved ones. When you're in the heat of the moment, sometimes you're like, I just need 10. Let me come back. Let the emotion, let the bubbles simmer a little bit out, and then come back. And usually by then you have a little bit more of a level head.
And then, do you feel a responsibility as someone in your position, especially because you're so outspoken on matters of HIV and stigma, to when you even if perhaps you don't have some sort of back and forth engagement with someone, but you see somebody saying something really negative or really like scientifically and factually incorrect, do you feel a responsibility to chime in all the time? Or how do you judge when it's a good time to say, hang on a second, buddy, or go, let the wackadoodle go?
Yeah, a lot of times a big factor for me is knowing who the audience is. If I know that someone is speaking within a silo of people who all think the same way and their minds are made up and that's that, then you're really just walking into the fire for just the sake of getting burned. But if you know that there are people watching, listening, reading who might have their opinions swayed, then I think it is important to counter disinformation and present an argument that is reasonable and coherent.
And in the last couple of seconds I've got you, what would you say to somebody who is thinking themselves, they're living with HIV, and they're thinking, boy, maybe I want to share my story. Should I do it on social media? Is that the smartest way to put it out there in the world? Or are there other ways? What would you suggest to those people who are thinking about doing it?
There's definitely not one right answer. It's definitely a deeply personal question that you have to ask yourself. And you also have to consider things like, how thick is your skin? How are you able to tolerate that kind of potential negativity on social media? And also in your real life, in your social situations, where you live, will it put you in immediate danger? That's a very present reality for a lot of folks living around the world.
Yeah, well, you've brought up some great points, but I think, at the end of the day, I think we're both in unique positions that we're able to use our voices and our platforms to help inform and educate people on HIV. Not only are you our fitness guru, but you're a steady guide at all times, especially to me when it comes to matters of social media. Raif Derrazi, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's going to do it for this episode of Plus Talk on Plus Life. If you want more information, check out our website, pluslifemedia.com, and remember to follow us across all social media platforms. We are at Plus Life Media. Until next time, take a moment to be nice to one another, even on social media. We'll see you soon.